And it's an honor to be invited by Robin and UN Cardiff, and who I know for years have been doing tireless work along promoting UN Charter, goals of the United Nations, implementing peace, development, etc. And I'm here, as Robin said, to tell you more about my core messages of this book. And as Robin also said, I've been here before, and it's an honor to be here again. And before I start, I need a break from my speech to do a little commercial. We got a meeting in the Parliament, 30th of October, if you happen to be in London. And we got quite famous speakers, the filmmaker Ken Loach, Fabian Hamilton, Shadow Minister for Peace and Disarmament, about whom I will talk about a bit later, and a few others. Yeah. And if you fancy to go to Limerick, Ireland, the meeting is next week, where me and my wife Shanti are traveling just after this meeting next week, actually towards the weekend. And it is the NOAA 2019, and is hosted by World Beyond War, and I'm an active member of them. It's a US organization which is spreading all over. And a advance warning, like you have meetings here, we are going to have an international peace summit under GANIP. GANIP stands for Global Alliance for Ministries and Infrastructures for Peace. And people will be coming from Canada, America, Nigeria, Africa, and all the other places, Argentina, Latin America, everywhere. About 50 or 200 people we are expecting in London towards the last week of June. It's not finalized, but once I finalize all the things, I will let Robin know, who will let all of you know. If you like to spend a bit of time in June, last week of June, in London, and the weather hopefully should be fine.
Sorry, where's the venue in London, and what's the time on the 30th?
We are fixing it. Part of the events will be in the UK Parliament, and some will be outside Parliament. So it will be 3 or 4 days global international gathering of peacekeepers from around the world.
This is the 30th of October, Mark.
No, 30th of October. It is in June. 6 to 8 p.m. and it is in UK Parliament, Atlee Street, Portcullis House, and 1 Parliament Street, Westminster, as you know it. Yeah. There are flyers over there if you are in London or like to come. Yeah.
Could you say again which month?
This is October, 30th of October. 30th. Okay. Let me go back to my talk of today. Dear friends, UN Charter goals of saving succeeding generations from scourge of war, and the message of my book, which is how not to go to war, are quite similar, because both of us, the UN Charter and my book, are promoting peace or abolition of war. Let me start by saying a relevant question around peace. Is peace possible? Can it pay? And how do we build it in the fabric of our everyday life? Or is war inevitable, necessary, or beneficial, as we are often led to believe, with humanity doomed to ever-increasing military spending? Or is it a charade to support the war economies? Years of perpetual war in Afghanistan, Yemen, Iraq, Libya have pushed militaristic spending to 1.82 trillion a year, highest level, and out of which US has spent 6 trillion from 2003, with the result their economy and the world economy crashed, if you remember, in 2008. And the banks, whom we always fund in the end, were funded to the tune of 16 trillion US dollars. And who is affected? It affects the poorest of the society. Another effect of war is the global impact of violence, which was in 2018 14.76 trillion. And with the direct result of which is that we now have 75 million refugees around the world from conflict and persecution. And in contrast, well, it's beggars belief that the UN budget for peacekeeping operations is 6.8 billion per year. Less than the budget of the Tokyo fire station or what US citizens spend on plants and flowers in a year. Dear friends, no society on earth can afford to waste $1 trillion every year. In my book, How Not to Go to War, I have explained the psychological underpinnings of enforced culture of war and militarism, which is responsible. Why do taxpayers consent to pay billions, if not trillions, to support military structures when their country faces no realistic threat of invasion and has now been attacked for centuries? Dear friends, real security doesn't come from belligerent posturing or reckless military interventions like in the Middle East, spreading conflicts rather than settling them. Real security comes from working for peace and justice and cooperation and diplomacy and dialogue and addressing the root causes of haves and have-nots. The systematic destruction of arms control, as we are seeing now, and treaties, like we've been out of INF treaty, Alien treaty and all the treaties, and disregard for international law, like our Prime Minister Boris Johnson and President Trump in America are doing, have led to a new nuclear arms race and concern for national and global security. Dear friends, to understand the military mindset, we don't need to go too far. Church of England has spent 10 million investing in global arms trade. In May 2019, in Westminster Abbey, a church hosted a bizarre and shameful Thanksgiving celebration to mark the 50th anniversary of UK Trident nuclear submarine system, armed with the kind of weapons infamous for indiscriminately killing 100,000 people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this event took place in the presence of government ministers and the royal family, showcasing how our political, social and even religious elite combine to glorify the weapons of apocalypse. Dear friends, the military sucks the blood from the economy like some vast leech, which leads US and other Western economies to crumble, while they still keep on asking for more weapons, more money for fighter planes, for tanks, etc. With this huge military spending, a direct result is that in the world over, 820 million people are suffering from hunger and malnutrition and go to bed without any food every day. Why is the world spinning out of control? This is because the global economy is rigged in favor of rich countries at the expense of the poor countries, and also because of our wrong spending priorities. People are brainwashed with deceptions and mistruths and are led to believe we cannot afford the National Health Service, education, public transport, renewable energy, doctors, teachers, nurses, firefighters, social workers and the police. But we got enough money to spend 205 billion for replacing the nuclear Trident submarine. Dear friends, we need to change this culture of militarism, populism and extremism, or we will face the scenario of what John F. Kennedy, the US President, said in his UN speech in 1961. Mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. To change something, we need to build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And my new book, How Not to Go to War, has a way out. It examines how governments can bring these new institutions about. It's a shameful fact that although almost every country has a ministry or department of defense, or what I call a department for war, but very few have a department for peace, only 5 countries. I'll come to that in a minute. There is an urgent need for these groundbreaking institutions to be installed in each and every country, and which will create the infrastructure for peace at governmental level. And these departments will promote culture of peace, non-violence at home and abroad. And they will institutionalize peace in the same way that war has been institutionalized and is part of the fabric of our society. And these departments all over the world will work for promotion of culture of peace and eventual abolition of war. A minister for peace, dear friends, at the cabinet table will have a voice to speak for non-violent conflict resolution and alternatives to war. Because if the defense minister or war minister is saying, so-and-so country in trouble, North Korea, Iran, etc., let's go and send our planes and tanks and etc., then the Minister for Peace will say, hang on, let's exhaust dialogue, diplomacy, let's exhaust going to United Nations, let's do all that before we rush up to war. So that's why we do urgently need a department for peace in all the countries. Because it will have its focus shift from war making to a culture of peace, advancing practical techniques to avoid outbreaks of violence before they arise. Dear friends, there are successful examples of departments for peace. There are 5, and now there are Afghanistan and one more, so there are about 7. But I'm just going to speak about 2, Costa Rica and Ethiopia. Among the countries that have already established a department for peace, Costa Rica and Ethiopia are shining examples of shifting their focus from war to peacemaking. And in 1948, Costa Rica abolished its army, its military, allowing it to spend more on health, education and international peace. This is one of the reasons that Costa Rica, a Central American country with 5 million people, tops the Happy Planet Index every year, which means measurement of personal well-being. In contrast, most of the countries with huge military budget and possessing nuclear weapons have a level of peace which remains far below the global average. And according to Global Peace Index 2018, the ranking of UK is 45, France 60, China 110, USA 128, and USA 154. Let me shift my focus to Ethiopia. In 2018, Ethiopia established a Ministry for Peace, and in a groundbreaking move, its Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed brokered a peaceful resolution to a 20-year-old conflict with Eritrea, which had claimed more than 100,000 lives. Relations between the two countries have improved, with flights and communications resuming, separated families reunited, and embassies reopened. These departments of peace are supported by United Nations Resolution 26 of the 4th, 2010, which supports the establishment of establishing departments of peace for promoting culture of peace. The UN resolution cites all the documents written on culture of peace since 1945, which include Charter of the UN, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UN Program for Culture of Peace and Non-Violence, Constitution of UNESCO, and Global Partnership for Prevention of Armed Conflict. So this idea is reinforced by the United Nations. Dear friends, one of the ideas I have promoted in the book is that departments of peace will open peace centers in major cities and towns around the world. Why is that? For promoting and training community and education hubs for peace builders, community leaders, hosting interfaith dialogue, multicultural activities and seminars on reducing knife crime, violence, shooting and murder. Okay, I'm just going to ask you a question. Just tell me which is the most violent murderers of knife crime city in the world. Glasgow, Chicago, New York or London?
London.
Anyone answer that?
London.
Shanti is right, London. 22,000 knife crimes happened last year in London. That's why it's become the knife crime capital of the world. Okay, let's move on with my... Okay, and about these peace centers, will give peace building support and for humanitarian aid resources, food, healthcare, education and more to assist countries ending conflict. Dear friends, somehow or not somehow, it's very important we make peace a profitable industry. Yeah, because military industrial complex. What happened last year? The military didn't ask, and because President Trump wants the support of the military, he said, "Oh, I know you haven't asked it, but here is 700 billion anyway, so that you can research in the outer space and you can be leaders in the world." And I don't know, unfortunately, I don't know if people are very knowledgeable here and they will understand. The adverse effect of it, which is good, which economists and other elites say is very good, the economy boosts up because there is a negative side to economy and there is a positive. So that military spending goes to the positive side of it. It should be the negative because it kills people. And people have suffering and then wherever the countries the conflict is, like Afghanistan and or Iraq and all those countries, it's a negative effect because there is no growth or development there. But it is a positive effect for US because it's written on the positive, under the GDP, gross domestic product, it's written on the positive balance sheet side of it. That's why when you spend, that's why they say the stocks have gone up, the shares have gone up, but no journalist has got the courage to tell people why they have gone up. I wish the Americans really knew why it has gone out. Because their leaders are killing people all over the world. Okay, sorry to... Why? I want to say is, how are we going to make this peace industry profitable? Because we have to start a peace industrial revolution and dedicate ourselves for creating infrastructures for peace, which will work for the benefit of humanity. Against the huge military spending we have got, peace can be feasible at a fraction of the cost of military intervention. And let me say this, which will resonate with all of you. It is in the interest of the 500 Fortune 500 companies who operate around the globe, including in the troublesome areas or conflict areas, to work in a peaceful atmosphere for their business to flourish. So these big and small businesses will be too willing to give funding to entrepreneurs for prevention of conflict and establishing urgently institutions that can build a culture of peace. Dear friends, culture of peace is universal. It's shared by people and nations worldwide. A peaceful society is one that acts responsibly for the needs of the entire planet and the beings that inhabit it. A society that is just and peaceful, sustainable and characterized by sudden outbreaks of violence and war. Because wars and militarism make us less safe rather than protect us. So going forward, so let's work together to face the challenges we face as a human race. Let's combine our resources to save this unique planet, because I strongly believe that when we work together, we can achieve extraordinary things. Dear friends, most of the people have never killed anyone. 102 countries have abolished the death penalty. 22 countries, including Costa Rica, Iceland, Marshall Islands and many more, have no armies. 47 countries on our planet have relatively peaceful societies, including European Union. I know European Union is under so much attack and criticism, but for the first time in Europe, in the history of Europe, we have got a lasting peace or a permanent peace for the last 70 years. Because we were always at war. The bigger countries like UK, Germany, France and all that. We had 30-year wars, 70-year wars. For thousands of years we were if we were not at war, we were preparing for another war. So people were really told about the benefits of European Union, that we won't be having these problems of Brexit what we have got today. So as peace activists,